of their tax base, the city council of the city of Atlanta decided that Cop City was a great idea, but this was done completely behind closed doors. Community members did not even find out about the proposal until the very day that the council meeting to consider it would happen. But the community provided 17 hours of public comment against Cop City because it was made clear that one, we don't want a Cop City. Two, we certainly don't want it right in the middle of a historically black neighborhood in East Atlanta that is also within DeKalb County. And three, we don't want you to have to destroy the South River Forest, which was the largest urban forest in the southeastern United States at the time. We didn't want the destruction of 381 acres of forest land and the continued pollution of our vital watershed in order for this training facility to be built. There was no question about me opposing this facility because that is my neighborhood. I'm from East Atlanta, born and raised in East Atlanta. My granny's house still sits in East Atlanta, and my family still occupies that home. So for me to oppose Cop City was just like breathing because it posed an imminent threat to the community that I love, the community where I grew up, the community where my family still resides, where my aunt still has her daycare, where we have so many family friends. There was no way that I would stand by and allow this to happen without raising my voice.
I wanted to ask you about the city's leadership, specifically around this ballot initiative that, from my understanding, was signed by over 100,000 people that would have brought this issue to a public vote, so a democratic vote to say, hey, do we want something like this in Atlanta? And from what I've read, what's been reported, there was a lawsuit that was actually filed by the city against the petitioners, and that lawsuit is in an appeals court. So can you give us, some details about what happened there and your reaction to the actions of the city leaders, whether it be Mayor Andre Dickens or various other city council members who you kind of name check there, in regards to what I feel to be sort of anti-democratic behavior?
Yeah, absolutely. So, since the city decided that they would go against the public and ignore 17 hours of public comment and move forward with the deal to begin Cop City's construction, we decided as a movement, after being involved in the fight against Cop City since 2021, we saw that as we were out in the streets, as we were engaging in other direct action tactics, there were people who were saying, these people who are standing against Cop City, they have a point, but maybe if they just do things the right way, they would get more respect. Maybe if they just did things legally, then people would understand where they're coming from. So, being a movement that is as diversified as this country, we decided that we would implement another tactic because we believe in a diversity of tactics. So we decided to go the route of electoral politics. We embarked on a ballot referendum initiative. The first step was getting a petition for the city of Atlanta to approve for us to even engage in collecting signatures for a referendum. So immediately from the onset, the city was trying to block our efforts. First, it was about what was written in the city ordinance regarding referenda and how they are to be conducted. So we had to fight about that. Finally, we got our petition language approved by the city. And then the next thing you know, the city was saying, well, only registered voters in the city of Atlanta can collect petition signatures. So myself and a group of my neighbors decided that we would file a lawsuit as residents of the city of Atlanta, but also DeKalb County, people who lived closest to where they were building Cop City. We wanted to make sure that our voices could be heard and that we could have a part in this process because the land where they built Cop City belongs to DeKalb County. Although it is situated within the city of Atlanta, DeKalb County has jurisdiction. That entire area is under the jurisdiction of unincorporated DeKalb County. So even if the referendum were put on a ballot, we would not be able to vote because we're not technically considered residents of the city of Atlanta. So we went to court, and our petition to the court was please allow residents of DeKalb County, because we are directly affected by this, to collect signatures for the referendum. The judge in that case decided that not only would we as DeKalb County residents be allowed to collect signatures, but that anyone in the state of Georgia could collect signatures as long as the signatures were collected within the city limits of the city of Atlanta, and as long as the people signing were registered voters who were registered to vote at the time of the last mayoral election. We went to the streets. We got 116,000 signatures for this referendum petition. Meanwhile, as we were collecting signatures, the mayor of the city of Atlanta was busy appealing the injunction that we had been granted, not only for signature collection, but that injunction granted us an additional 60 days in which to collect signatures. Mayor Andre Dickens opposed that vehemently. What ended up happening was that after we collected over 116,000 signatures to be exact, turned them into the city of Atlanta, Mayor Dickens decided to tell the municipal clerk not to count the signatures and not to continue in the referendum process. As we speak, we still have not gotten a decision from the 11th District Circuit Court of the United States. That is a court of appeals, and we are waiting. The last oral arguments in this case occurred in December of 2023. We recently got word from the judge that, you know, maybe we should consider just dropping this case because the facility is already built. Our lawyers have submitted a brief regarding. We expect that the City of Atlanta's attorneys have submitted a brief regarding that also. But the important thing to note in the referendum campaign is that not only did Mayor Andre Dickens decide to appeal to try to keep us from getting this referendum to a ballot, the Attorney General of the state of Georgia weighed in that appeal, and they would seek to banish referenda in their entirety in the state of Georgia. And that's a really important thing for people to understand as an issue of direct democracy.
Yeah, it seems like from what you're saying, it's kind of clear that they're just trying to run out the clock on this particular issue. It's already built, so let's just move on. And I think in regards to your comments about Mayor Andre Dickens and why he's doing some of the things he's doing, when you look at politics, you can tell a lot about what's going to happen by the money supporting that particular issue or person. And when we look at the funding of Cop City, it's big corporations, it's billionaires, and I even found even ties to the country of Israel. So for me, one person who comes to
Yes.
mind, who kind of checks all three boxes there, is the late founder of Home Depot, Bernie Marcus, who's a big figure, or who was a big figure in Atlanta politics. And when we take all that into consideration, it starts to feel like this is something kind of bigger than just a local policing issue. I'm noticing a growing alliance between the Stop Cop City movement and organizing for a free Palestine. So I'm wondering, what do you think these two struggles have, found in common? And maybe broader than that, why do you think corporate and international interests are so invested in U.S. police training?
Well, the first thing that I'll say is that we have lifted up the struggle between the Stop Cop City movement and the struggle for a free Palestine from the inception of the movement to Stop Cop City. I know that many of us, when we have spoken, we have always made the connection and informed people that there is something called the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, which is a deadly police exchange program that takes officers from here in the United States to Israel to train with the Israeli occupation forces. They learn deadly suppression tactics from the Israeli occupation forces and they bring them back here and they use those tactics on us. The thing about the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange is that it is housed in the Andrew Young um, School of Public Policy at Georgia State University. And the idea for Cop City goes back even to a former police chief by the name of Chief Turner, who visited Israel on one of the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange trips and saw their surveillance of Palestine and thought that it was a good idea to bring that back to Atlanta. So it began with surveillance. First, we want to surveil you. the same way that Palestinians are constantly being surveilled by Israel.